Welcome to USIP ISIP, a weekly podcast with Northern Lights Winery founder Doug Bell, exploring the experiences from leaders in business, social media, and family. Now here's this week's exceptional guest.
Welcome to USIP ISIP. My name's Doug Bell. I'm the host of this program, and I'm super excited to have Cara Roberts here from Active Body Nutrition in Prince George, a local celebrity and somebody who is a fitness guru. And you're going to have to whip me into shape today because as many people know, I'm like into running and I play hockey, but I am like your typical dad where it's like, I don't think about nutrition nearly as much as I need to. And this is something that is super important in our lives, especially as people are living longer and they really need the ability to live a healthy and vibrant lifestyle for an extended period of time. And what they do today is really going to affect them in the future. I'm really excited to have you here. And today we're drinking our Bell Reserve Hascap Blueberry Blend wine, sipping along while we have a great conversation.
So
welcome.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. So as we get started today, I want to maybe ask you about your comic book #1 story and how you got started in nutrition, and is this something that started when you were a kid?
So when we're referring to my whole fitness and nutrition story, that probably started when I was 25. So at 25, that was where I hit my rock bottom, which is typically where people start most of their journeys from. I had 2 very young kids. I believe they were, what were they? Like 6 and 4. I actually had a really bad back injury from picking them up wrong. So I would bend over at my waist all the time. And at one point I found myself on the ground. I was hospitalized for a day or 2 while I realized that I didn't have any muscle built around my spine. I was overweight. And I actually was quite depressed, but we didn't have that word back then. That word wasn't as socially accessible as it is now. Mm-hmm. So it was just a postpartum thing, we called it. So I took it upon myself to just start walking. So I lived at the bottom of St. Lawrence. I'd throw my kids in a double stroller, and I just started by going up to the first lamppost. And that's what I encourage people to this day to do, is to not bite off more than you can chew. And I knew that if I was going to set my goals too big too soon, that I wouldn't actually accomplish them, because I had tried other things before and it didn't work. So we just started with walking. And then after a couple of days, we would try to get to the second lamppost and the third lamppost. And pretty soon I got to the top of St. Lawrence, and that was a huge victory for me. Yeah. So I think it's really important for people to set small milestone goals and not just look at the bigger picture like the top of the hill was for me. Yeah. So that was just getting active.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. You had kind of an impact or an event in your life that just created this need and urgency to start changing things. Now, my guess is that most people do fall into that category. But there are probably a lot of people that are aware that they need to be a little more active, but maybe haven't had the opportunity or the drive or that life event to do so yet. So you're consulting and you're working with people at a lot of different stages of the fitness journey. What's the most common thing that you see that kind of gets them into the moment where they're actually going to make a change for an extended period of their life?
I would say 10 plus years ago, it would have been a medical condition. Now, I actually find it interesting that it's social media influencers that are really sparking things for people. And fitness is becoming way trendier and way more common, way more socially acceptable than it was before, and more inclusive. So there's a lot more stages of fitness that are entering gyms and, wanting to put on some cute Lulu pants and take a picture and put it on their social media platforms. So I definitely find that, social media is trending a lot more fitness as of now than it would have been a few years ago. So absolutely. That's a big one for sure right now.
Yeah. So moms are definitely in this category as well. And that's the impact that you had was being a young mom and having this experience with your kids. Do you find that maybe there's an intimidation factor for young moms and people who are going through like significant changes with their body?
100%.
And So what are like tactics or things that you try and work with people on? Maybe not even so much on the physical part, but on the mental part of making this change.
Probably one of the first things that I can suggest to someone who's looking at making that change, especially young moms. We have this tendency to have this old box of clothes that we hold on to because we want to fit back into those. Now, for me, because I was a mom by the time I was 18, those clothes were nothing that I was ever going to accomplish getting back into. And I found that pulling out the old Russell Athletic shorts and the big old Wandetta t-shirts and going for a walk didn't make me feel good. So it wasn't until I actually would put a little bit of money into, I know this sounds weird, but wardrobe. If you can actually feel cute, you're going to do the thing. So before women even get a gym membership, I encourage them to go to Winners and grab themselves some kind of an outfit that they're comfortable in, that they're going to be excited to put on, and not just wait to get into something else one day and hope to donate this outfit to someone else one day, put it to Goodwill so that someone else can use it. So once you get that kind of mental happy, it's almost like getting up and having a shower every day. If you feel good on the outside, you're going to feel a lot better on the inside too.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I imagine it's very much like the runner's high, right? So you started this journey of fitness, which initially just started pushing your children in a double stroller to one lamppost and then to another, and you kept on moving forward, and you started to get some results, I assume. And so what was the next part of your journey? What happened from that point? Was there a goal you were trying to achieve?
yeah, I had a size that I wanted to be, a weight that I wanted to be, that, we can touch base on that a little bit later, how, irrelevant the weight portion is. But I did have those goals. And once I started to see the results from the exercise, I started to realize that maybe I could make some changes with what I was eating as well. So there wasn't a lot of information. Remember, this is before cell phones. This is before internet.
You're not that old.
Well, I'm going to be 45 next month, so I'm definitely that old. But no, I found that not drinking any calories was the first step. So I ditched all juice and pop and milk and coffee cream and sugar out of my coffee. And those were the next things that made a huge impact into my life. So to this day, I still, not besides this delicious glass of wine, doesn't hurt anything. I try not to drink calories. I try to consume them instead, because you don't realize that you do allow putting yourself into a deficit that way. Because most people want to lose weight is the thing. They want to lose fat. And you have to be in a caloric deficit in order to do that. But that's very complicated to start out with. So just making a simple change is, don't drink your calories, was the next step in my journey for sure.
So you had this fitness portion of your journey, which was essentially the running, maybe walking. And then you started looking at the nutrition portion. And of course, the caloric deficit being the ability for you to burn more calories in a day than you consume. And so you probably started doing some research and getting interested in this. Did you start to reach out to other trainers at that point, or nutritionists, or where did you start to get your information, being that they were still using stone tablets?
They were.
Back in the day.
There wasn't information. There were magazines at the end of the racks in the grocery store, but they all gave you false promises of lose 30 pounds in a week. Yeah. And now, knowing what I know, that is all just advertising and complete bullshit. So basically what I did was I got a gym membership because I knew that I needed to get some resistance training, because my goal was going to be to fix this back injury, not just, get rid of the weight and get some cardiovascular going, but I needed to strength train. So I was not comfortable, as most women are not, especially moms. I wanted to find a place that had a decent daycare, and I didn't want to be around dudes. I was not comfortable around men. Mm-hmm. So I got a membership at a women's gym, and I just started doing aerobics classes. Mm-hmm. And then you just basically focus on what the teacher's teaching you to do, mm-hmm. and try to incorporate that into your daily life. So I actually did aerobics at the Women's Zone with fabulous trainers like Vanessa Hamilton and Karen Pichet and all these other wonderful, influential trainers in town. I did that for 12 years before I decided to go into a co-ed atmosphere and start really pushing my body and doing weight training.
Great. So you got into the gym, and what was like the surrounding support like at that point? Because you're doing this for yourself, which is fantastic, Did you have other influences, other people in your life that maybe you had an opportunity to see the impacts that were being made?
Yeah, I did have some very good friends that were also very active in the gym with me. And I think that what was really important, starting with classes, which I still encourage people to do if they're comfortable, because you have a group of women at the time, of course, because I was in a women's atmosphere only, that you're accountable to. You have to show up for them. They have to show up for you. So I had this great group of women that would do classes with me, and I became friends with the instructors as well. But I found my calling kind of almost started then because I really liked inspiring other people. And so I would show up for them as much as I would show up for myself. So, I would have friends that would need to have like a big weight loss that were never comfortable in a gym, that I'd literally drive to their house and pick them up and make sure that they came with me to this class, right?
Yeah.
And so we just had this really amazing atmosphere all through like whenever that was, like the late 1990s, early 2000s, where we would all just show up for each other. And then that would spark a little bit more interest in my own goals and pushing myself harder and accomplishing more goals, not just for me, but I wanted to show these women what they could do too.
Yeah. So the women, they were friends of yours, and you were going on this journey and you were seeing impacts for yourself. And then you saw friends that maybe had similar and I'll say mental health issues, not being that they have any mental health issues, but it is a lot of it inside our own heads. And there's a fear of going to the gym for the first time and being relatively vulnerable in this class of people who have been doing it for an extended period of time. What were some of the barriers that you found maybe for yourself, and some of the barriers you recognized that others around you were facing to make this life change?
I could honestly say that at the point that I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and trying to balance still putting the kids first and being mom first. Before, I didn't really understand at the time that it was more important to take care of myself before everybody else. So it would just be trying to squeeze in whatever I could around kids' activities. That was probably the biggest barrier for sure. And then, of course, at the time there'd be, whatever naysayers in my life that would discourage me in a way that would be like, you shouldn't be yo-yoing, you shouldn't be dieting, this is bad for you. Like, everybody becomes an expert as soon as you go on a journey. And that's one thing that I do find with my store is I have to kibosh that as soon as people walk through the door, because as soon as someone says, oh, my friend said this or my friend said that, I have to erase all of what the friend has said and start with them personally, because what works for someone doesn't work for someone else. Yeah. So I found one of the most interesting things that I was told to me a lot was, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, which actually drove me to do it more. Yeah. So people's opinion was really important to me at the time, and I almost wanted to prove them wrong with what I was doing. So that elevated it. Yeah,
that's incredible. And that speaks to the person you are. And we've gotten a chance to know each other over the last few years to some degree. And certainly I recognize the strength, your mental strength, and the fact that you bring this energy with you every single time I've ever met you, and you bring this to other people. You clearly have a real passion for supporting and helping others. And you're in the middle of this journey. You're starting to drag your friends along with you, which is the greatest compliment that you can give them. And now you've been doing this for 10, 12 years or so. And you started thinking about how you could get more involved in the industry. What was the next steps for you?
So the next step for me was making a huge life change. And I actually got a divorce at that time. And I went out on my own as a single mom of 3 children now at this point. And I was just like so on fire to learn who I was and what I was actually capable of without any influence in my day-to-day, and really drive for who I could be. And one of the biggest factors for me was, how am I going to support myself plus 3 kids plus. Like, I don't bring anything to the table educationally, because I had been home with the kids for 16 years. I didn't even have my grade 12 at the time that I had my first child. So I felt that it was really important to get that under my belt. which, short story long, I didn't actually accomplish. And to this day, I still don't have my grade 12. But in the time that I was trying to educate myself, I was doing extracurricular things, such as going to the gym, teaching myself how to paint, because you and I met through art is really our first connection. So during this time, I was, I graduated to a co-ed gym. I was more comfortable. I had, an excellent friend who encouraged me. She's like, you're never going to meet anybody in a women's gym, so we need to get you out of this atmosphere and into a co-ed situation. Yeah. So that's where the vibe of competing, and, there was a few very influential women in my life at the time, one in particular that was going to be hitting the stage and showing off all her hard work in the gym. And so I went along for the ride to do hair and makeup. So I went for quite a few shows where I got to see the behind the scenes, and I got to watch the dedication and commitment and the nutrition and the diet and the exercise portion of all that. And, this new gym community, including her, were very encouraging that, hey, you could probably do this too.
Yeah.
So that kind of escalated.
So you ended up in a fitness competition with your friend, and they kind of dragged you into this world. And I mean, I've got a few friends that have done this over the years, and it is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult on your time, on your body, on your mind. What was your experience when you got into it? How did you find that development?
I love it. I thrive under pressure. I feel like I'm the type of person who wants more for myself all the time. So a lot of people love to focus on the hard, but you have to choose your hard. Being out of shape is hard. Being in shape is hard. What do you want to do and what do you want to be? So once I got a taste, and in my opinion, the first time someone does something epic like that, you have to kind of set your sights on just the goal is to get up there.
Yeah.
That's where I started. My goal was, I'm going to be this mom of 3, and I'm going to get myself into shape, and I'm going to stand beside 20-year-olds that have never had a baby, and I'm going to feel good. That's all I wanted out of the deal. And to be there with my friends that were on stage beside me. And then it turned out that I just happened to genetically have what it took at the time, which has morphed. It's changed. Don't get me wrong. Now competing is different than it was this many years ago. This is 2011. Yeah. And I won my first show, and then I was hooked. So from that point on, I just kept kind of accelerating. Yeah. And then people in the gym were saying, oh, hey, you look good. Can you help me? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's see if I can do something with you too. So then I kind of started training people, and that transformed into my Cara Roberts Fit Life business that I started the year later.
Yeah. So you went on quite the journey. You had a long hiatus where you were raising your children and you weren't working. You didn't pass grade 12, and now you're going into this new business, this new life, and people are just coming up to you, approaching you while you're doing something you really love to do, and asking you for help. How did that feel? Like that must have been a prideful moment.
No, that felt very empowering. It felt great because the mom in me wants to fix and help everybody. So I got to kind of put on my mom hat in the gym, and it gave me the confidence to believe that I knew what I was doing. Now, I wound up hiring a coach the second season. So I went at her for a while. And I learned from that. So learning from other people myself. And you always have to remember that you know a little more than someone else. That was kind of my philosophy. So if someone's approaching me in the gym, even though I didn't have all the certifications and have all the formal schooling, that was something that I didn't prioritize on at the moment, because it was just teaching them what I had just done, which I think that people need to give credit to. So when you accomplish something on your own, it's really important that you can share that information with the next person.
Yeah, it's real world experience.
Right? Exactly. I'm book smart. Or no, I'm street smart, not book smart. I'm the exact opposite. So yeah, I just started, coaching some people in the gym, and they started having great results. And then whenever someone new would approach me and be like, hey, I'm type 2 diabetic. And I'm like, cool, let's figure this out together. So I had a let's figure this out together approach to my first couple of years of training people. And it came with some great successes and a lot of education for me, and, not a lot of failures at that point yet, but that comes later. So,
but you need some failures as well, because that's how we improve. I mean, if you don't have any failures, you're not learning anything, and likely you're staying too inside your own box, right? And you're not going to develop as a person if you don't actually learn more. So you're starting to train these people. You're having a lot of success. You're really into these amazing competitions. You've won a bunch. You're a mom of 3, which is incredible in its own right. And so sooner than later, you started to decide that nutrition was impactful to you, and you opened up your own store.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So if we back up just a tiny bit, I started dating my boyfriend, Mark, who owns the store with me, back right before I started competing. So he actually gave me the courage and everything too, to believe in myself along with everybody else to start doing that end of things. So and I picked him up at the gym. So he's a bit of a gym guy himself.
Yeah.
So at the time he was running Raven Truck Accessories just up the hill here. And it was one of those situations where, managerial position for 15, 16 years, becoming a very thankless job that's being ran like an owner without the benefits of being an owner. So, here I am starting my career. I'm working from home. I'm teaching art classes at this point too, because I also taught myself how to paint at that time. So I'm kind of like working out whatever I can for income in the house and being super like gloriously happy. Loving every minute of every day. And I'm watching him pack up his lunch kit and drag himself miserably up the hill to go to work every day. And so we were, he started competing as well. So we both were like pretty heavy into the industry when we decided that we were going to take a big jump and do something together that was fitness related. Yeah. So my father had actually owned a gym here in town when I was young, North Wave Athletic Club. It's in the Judy Russell building now. Yes. So I actually grew up sleeping on a bed of coats in his office. So I got to talk to him firsthand and chat about, what the experience of owning a gym would look like. And we opted not to do that. And so then we decided, what's one thing that we are experiencing, ourselves as, say, a consumer of supplements. That was a big part of our lifestyle, right? Filling nutritional gaps. And we knew that there was nowhere you could go and feel comfortable when you're not in shape yet. People need to be able to come into a place for advice and somewhere that they can trust before they get started on their journey, not just midway. Like I wanted to be in shape before I ever stepped foot in a very intimidating environment like that. Yes. So yeah, we, at the time, the coach that I was using out of Vancouver, they had started Active Body Nutrition, which soon after we got on our feet and rolling, it's no longer, we're a standalone mom and pop. We do it on our own now. But at the time we loved that their philosophy was going to be including your grandmother, housewives, moms, dads, like just anybody. It wasn't just gym and bodybuilding. Because in all honesty, bodybuilders are cheap. And I can say that because I'm a bodybuilder. Yeah. So, it's definitely more of a demographic that's open to everybody in the community. And, having a safe place to land for people. And it was about building connections for us. So we decided that our service was going to be more about talking things out with our customers, giving them advice and tips and tricks, and then they come back and come back and come back. So we weren't going to be pushing sales and, doing anything that's going to have the better margins. That's not what's in mind. Every person gets an experience with us where they talk about themselves. Yes. So when I spoke earlier about how I was having success in the beginning, that's because I was working with a demographic that hadn't dieted a lot. Yeah. So as you progress in life and you work with different age groups and people closer to my age of 40, there's hormonal problems, there's, metabolism problems, there's all these other pieces to the pie that need to be figured out. Yeah. So that's where the challenges come in, because a lot of people have spent way too much time dieting. Yes. And not worrying so much about, way too much cardio, way too little food, all that stuff. That
you're talking about me right now is what you're talking about. One of my first experiences with you was not in person, because you are very active on social media. At least you previously have been. And you have a really great way of approaching people, because you have so much knowledge where you don't intimidate people, because you bring things that are very complicated and make them seem really simple. And you do this on your social media channels on Facebook and Instagram, and you kind of started just giving away all the information for free. Was that a strategic move that you made, or was it just something that you were naturally moving towards because of your love for helping people?
I feel like dumbing things down is how I learn. So that stemmed again from my experiences of being in a supplement store and having the person throw all these gigantic words at me and I had no idea what they're talking about. And I would actually walk away just feeling stupid. So I've always felt like if I could teach someone the basics, so if we could get it down to how you would speak to almost a kindergartner, I like to give visuals. I like to, keep it as simple as I can and just do 1 or 2 talking points so that they can actually remember and absorb and use that, because that's how I learned myself. Again, no grade 12. So I like to teach
maybe
how
was
I
an
learn.
advantage in some way. Perhaps because you didn't get your grade 12, you have a way of reaching people that's just different.
Well, I feel like I've had to push myself harder and prove myself more because I never had the certifications and I didn't have the, post-secondary. And, I always felt like that girl who just had a backpack on her back and, wound up getting pregnant. It wasn't anything that I felt overly proud of until I had some accomplishments under my belt. And don't get me wrong, I did try to go and get that grade 12 after when I was in my 30s. And again, I hit that crossroads of, I suck at math and I hate math and I don't do numbers and I will never do numbers, So, and that's a big part of any career that you're going to have is doing things like math.
You have, you've got a really great story in that you have clearly been able to be successful regardless. And I think it's important for everybody to recognize that despite your academic success or lack thereof, that really doesn't mean that you're going to be any more successful or less successful in real life. And you have done a lot of different things now since you got out. But the one thing you do clearly better than almost anyone is that communication piece. However, you're in this store with your partner now, and that probably had its own challenges. And so how did you find that experience opening up a store and then being in there every day with your partner?
Well, the store was never really going to be something for me per se. It was more going to be for him, to get him into the fitness stuff and to get him, making money in an industry that he enjoyed as well, and get us to be our own bosses. We were sick and tired of working for other people. And, so it actually worked really, really well because we both bring a completely different component to it. So all of the things that I'm not strong in, he's strong in, and vice versa. So when I say things like I don't do math, and he is all the behind the scenes stuff. He is amazing at everything to do with the back office, and stock is, I don't think that people could even realize the number of SKUs we carry, the amount of variety that we carry, the types of demands that are in our industry with the influencers that I spoke of before, and the stuff that people ask for constantly. And he's always doing such an amazing job of keeping our prices the same as Canadian Online so that there's no real reason for anybody to go anywhere else, right? And then my portion is going to be bringing the people in, and he's amazing at customer service too. But there's definitely challenges, but I don't really know any different, so I can't really say what it would be like without him and without this, because this is I've been doing this now, I guess 6 or 7 years. We've been doing the store, and coming from being at home to working in my office at home to doing a retail store, I guess I don't really know any different.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we work really well together, and the store is kind of a testament to that.
Well, and it shows because your store is very well known in the city of Prince George, and I think not just within the fitness community, but at large. Much of that is because you are very active within the community. You work a lot with influencers, and you hire a lot of influencers. They work in your store. You train people, and then they also are all communicating these positive messages of providing free information to people. Was there a strategy behind how you were going to get your message out across the community?
Yeah, actually there was. I feel like because I hit it so hard and so fast, I felt so overwhelmed, and I, again, being the helper, I wanted to be everywhere at all times. Like you always had me coming out to the Climb for Cancer. We'd hike to the top of the table and do all the hydration stations and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's really hard to be everywhere at once because Prince George is a thriving community with tons of events. And like the same day you would have your event, CrossFit Northern Nights would have, their event and this event and that event. I'm like, how can I possibly do these things? Mark has to work the store. So I just started to get involved with my companies and having them specifically sponsor people that are my people, my customers, people from, our community, our fitness community, and would get them in partnership with another company so that they would also, basically sponsorship is someone else paying them to give the information that I need to be putting out as well. And then it's going to, fall back on us because they're with our store. Yeah. So, getting as many people as I possibly could into the community with our active body tables was super important to me. Yeah. And then it just worked really well. And then these girls would come on my lives with me and, we, and guys too, we would do all kinds of episodes on Facebook and all this kind of stuff when COVID hit, of course. But previous to that, it was just really important for me to build a team that had the same views and feelings and approach to information that I had.
Yeah. So you hired a lot of athletes that were also influencers within social media, such as Instagram, probably primarily female athletes, and they were exceptional communicators. They worked with you to sponsor things within the city. I wanted to share the one story because I think it was really fun. It was, I think, 2017 or so when I approached Cara to take over a hydration station for our Climb for Cancer, which is a fundraiser where we're raising money for our cancer lodge here in Prince George. And what I didn't tell her was that it was going to be at this big hill and there was no way of getting the water into the hill. So Cara shows up at 10 o'clock or so and says, "Where should I set up the water?" And I said, "Well, the hill is about a 200 vertical meter climb straight up this sandbank." And she took, I think, about 5 or 6 trips, bringing 2 jugs of water up each time. We had some other volunteers that were big, strong, strapping young men, probably around 17 or 18. And I think they were only able to go up once. But you went up probably 4 or 5 or 6 times to bring water up.
You saw that?
It was incredible. And I was cheering you on from the bottom.
Did you see me cry in my car after?
I didn't think you would ever talk to me again at this point because it was absolutely the worst thing that you could ever do to somebody. And I did that to you on one of our first meetings. So I really appreciate that we're still friends.
Hey, we came back, so.
Yeah, you did. And you were incredible. And the next year we had maybe a better plan, but it was a lot of fun and is always a unique experience. So you're very much a part of the community. And now, obviously, things are a little bit more difficult since COVID started. Hopefully, things are going to open back up in the future. And what do you think? What do you think the impacts to general people's physical health has been throughout the pandemic? Is this something that people are considering? Are they thinking more about it, or is this something where maybe they're letting themselves go a little bit more than they have?
I think it's a bit of both depending on the people and the situation. I feel like COVID has had a severely negative impact and has pushed people away from the things that they were comfortable doing, especially when there were gym closures and that kind of stuff. I saw a lot of very, very negative effects for, people who rely on the gym, including myself, for our mental health. I am not someone who can not exercise every day for my sake and for everybody around me's sake. It's not just about the physical outside, it's about the inside as well. So I found, I definitely am happy to see a lot more people coming through the doors again. Sheepishly, sadly, because, they've gained 40, 50 pounds. They haven't worked out. They haven't done this. They haven't done that, but they're getting back on the horse and they're excited to, get started once more. But on the same token, I think that a lot of people, they weren't being directed by any major news casting to take care of their health and take their vitamins and minerals and think about nutrition. That part I felt a lot more weight on my shoulders to do. So, the more people that came through the door that saw a door open.
Yeah.
That was one thing, when the first shutdown happened and most people were, stay home, stay safe.
Yeah.
Some people would go for drives and they would see my open sign on and they would just walk in just to see a face and just to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then maybe we could drag them into that happy place where they could like go for a walk, just get outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they would tell a friend, and then that friend would go for a walk. So there were a lot of positives that came from it. I think a lot of more people were mindful of, what they were doing for their own heart and lung health, what they were doing nutritionally to maybe lose the extra weight that would get them out of the comorbidities that were, having the biggest impact on symptoms, that kind of thing.
Of course.
So there were definitely the people that were affected incredibly negatively, and then there were people that were affected positively, and then it got to a point that everybody was just being affected negatively. So
I definitely recognize that coming out of the pandemic, people have gone either one direction or another. They've been either very fitness minded and found ways of becoming active in their own home or outside, and then there's the other people that have kind of gone the other way. And so many of our listeners are probably sitting here thinking that they're in one of those two categories. For those people who are maybe a bit of the sheepish because they haven't had the opportunity to get back in on the horse, so to speak, what's like the first thing they do? Like, what is like a place or resource that they can do to feel good about getting back into the fitness industry?
Put your kids in that stroller and climb to that first lamppost. That's all you need to do. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't get yourself into this big plan and completely change the way you're eating and completely change what is inevitably going to fail within a couple of weeks because you're going to burn out. So I think it's very important, especially this time of year. I mean, that sun is shining, that ice is melting, there's roads opening up, sidewalks opening up. Just get outside and start walking. That was one thing that really was a positive impact in my household when COVID first hit, was the walking portion, because we literally could not do anything. There was nothing to be done. So myself and my youngest, who still lives at home, we walked every day. We did the big old loop around College Heights. And not only was it great to communicate with each other and talk about everything, get some fresh air, but we got exercise. And people have to stop worrying about getting into just the gym and getting onto equipment. And, steps is a huge part of your physical health. So number one, just start walking more, make a few more trips up the stairs to your laundry room if you need to, but just get active, get outside if you want to. If you enjoy the gym like I do, then, go somewhere that you're comfortable. Find a gym community that works for you, whether you're going to a commercial gym, a powerlifting gym, a CrossFit gym. Find your people. My people were in an aerobic studio with just women. That was where I started. And I'm glad I did, because it never would have escalated me to where I am now if I had just stayed walking. I needed that community support.
Yeah. Well, they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And finding people who are also fitness minded. And that, I think it is a very big word when I say fitness minded, because many people assume that means that they're going to the gym every single day. But there's so many different ways of being active and feeling good about yourself and your body. And one of the most difficult things people find is that there is a ton of misinformation out there. You mentioned earlier how the magazines would tell you, do this and you'll be fit, or go on this diet and you're going to lose weight. But ultimately, fitness can be very simple, or be a lot more simple than that, or it can be very complicated. What are the most common mistakes that you see people make when they're early in their journey of health and becoming a little more fit?
Well, I'll actually connect this back to a story of an aha moment that I had when I did go to Downtown Fitness, was the co-ed gym that I had gone to first. And I remember I was learning a lot at the time. I wasn't training anybody or anything yet. I walked around the corner and I saw 2 women having a conversation. And one of the women was incredibly thin and slight and small. And her friend was much more voluptuous and, definitely had very different looks to their body. And I remember the larger girl was really excited to look like the smaller girl if she did what she did. So that started my curiosity into body types, which is a very interesting thing that I'll start with a lot at the store. This is, again, free information. Looking into your body type is really, really beneficial because there are 3 major body types and they're very different from each other. And you can be a combination of all. And once you start researching that, you're going to learn how your metabolism works. If you're this, she was X and she was Y. Y was never going to look like X. One of them had an incredibly strong metabolism, and the more she eats, the more she burns. So she actually needs to consume, a ton more calories in her day and not do as much cardio, whereas the other one, has a slower metabolism. So, people complicate things with looking at, I want to look like her. That's like the first thing that I would tell clients when they would show up for consultations is I will never have you look like Halle Berry or, whoever was hot at the time. I want you to be the best version of yourself. So once you stop chasing these goals that are never going to happen, that's going to be the biggest misinformation that people have. They think that if they take the same pre-workout that someone else takes, you probably shouldn't take the same pre-workout because there's, a lot of stimulants in some of them. And if your friend takes that one, how much coffee did she drink in a day versus you? You know what I mean? So there's not a one size fits all approach to anything in the world, let alone fitness. So people need to just keep it super simple. And if they can start with the simplicity of what is your body type, you can Google that. Google, what's my body type? And you're going to see the 3, ecto, meso, and endomorphs. And then you can read because there's all this information out there in the world for free. And it tells you exactly what you could start with if you wanted to, or better yet, just come and talk to me. Yeah. Come and talk to my staff. And we will walk you through the first steps of what we need to learn. People need to understand their gut health is incredibly important. They need to understand stress is killer of everything. Yeah. So your cortisol hormone, that's going to put a water weight on you. It's going to change your appetite. It's going to screw your sleep over. All these pieces to the puzzle that can be as simple, and even, this is going to sound horrible, but I need to know sometimes how people, how are their shits? Because really, that is important too. I need to know your digestion. So, I'll have a hard conversation with you if you come in.
You get very deep into your personal life.
I sure do. Absolutely.
So there's a lot, again, of misinformation out there, but first thing to get through is maybe understanding your body type, and that's going to then take you through a process of understanding how you're going to have to change your lifestyle in terms of caloric intake, in terms of what type of nutrition you might need, in terms of different ways of exercising that are going to be more impactful for your body type. And are there resources that people can go to, like Google? You said Google, but Google has as much, difficult things to find or things that would be considered misinformation as it does information. What are some really good, reliable sources that you can go to find this information, other than yourself, which of course would be a great place to start. Would be on
obviously.
Your social channels and in your store.
I found if you're not going to hire a credible coach, and a coach shouldn't just be looking good, you should look at their background. You should look at what they've been able to do, what their clientele have looked like, what, you need to interview a person and you need to see what's a good fit for you. Are they going to expect incredibly difficult things that you're not capable of, or are they willing to work with you? So, hiring a coach would be great. And of course we have all kinds of recommendations for who to and who not to work with. But I found a couple years ago, Mark bought me a Fitbit for Christmas and it was like the best investment ever. And it's funny because I use it to do like caloric tracking, and I do, I track my sleep and stuff. I just have a super simple one. But, if I play with the app, which I don't really make the time for, there's places in there that tell you about recipes and they explain to you why you eat proteins and why you eat this and why you eat that. I think everybody has one of these on their wrist by now, but they don't use it for anything more than the time. So most people have already invested the money into the thing that can help them best.
So Fitbit or a smartwatch has a lot of resources, and that just makes you more aware maybe of what you are currently doing, and then working with a trainer or talking to somebody you trust that's in the industry that can give you some recommendations in terms of what impact you would like to get to actually achieve those things.
For sure. I would ignore every magazine ad that you walk by and anything that has been paid for by so-and-so. So anytime I'm reading an article or if I'm looking into information that I want to learn, I always go to the bottom and I see who paid for it first. Mm-hmm. And if it's going to be like, say, a certain company or a certain person or whatever that's, has financial gain from you doing the thing the way that they say to do it, that's when you question it and start doing more research on your own. But people don't know how to research. So it's just better to, trust what's out there. And the Fitbit, one thing that I forgot to say when I did do my initial weight loss and when I got myself into shape back when I started walking the kids, sorry, it sounds like I'm walking my dogs, walking with my children.
Well, eventually I assume that they got out of the stroller.
They did.
Right? They're not still in the stroller.
No.
Okay.
Thank goodness. They're pretty big now. No, actually, one of the nutrition techniques that I used, and I did it completely wrong, was Weight Watchers, which in my opinion is pretty much what a Fitbit is. You're allowed a certain amount of rewards in a day. You earn rewards. That gets you more active. When it comes to my Fitbit, if I want to eat more calories, I'll move more. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's just a really great first step. And if someone wants to spend $200 on a coach, or they can go and spend $150 on a watch, either way, it's a worthwhile investment because you're going to go spend that on your car or, clothes, or people just don't necessarily want to invest the time and money. The amount of money I spent on coaches that taught me what I know now is, invaluable.
But you're investing in yourself, right? All of those things that you mentioned, coaches, Fitbits, or Weight Watchers, one of the things they have in common is that in all of those situations, you are becoming responsible to answer to somebody. Right. And that might be yourself or it might be somebody else. But I think that tracking and being aware of what you're doing and then having at the end of the week to either look at yourself in the mirror or look at somebody else and say, did I achieve my goal, is really important. Because many times December 31st rolls around and we say, this is what I'm going to do next week or next month. But then we never follow up with our goal at the end. Right. And in some ways, we don't want to follow up because we are afraid that we're not going to achieve that. But if you're able to take somebody or connect with somebody, then they are going to really enforce that that goal is going to be achieved on a weekly basis, on a regular basis. Yeah. So that's really good. So I wanted to touch on one thing that's not fitness related before we close out a little soon. And that's that you are also an artist. And I haven't really heard this story before, but you do incredible paintings, and you don't just paint on canvas, you paint a variety of things, including wine barrels and other things, and coffee tables and many things. Where did that come from, and how was it related to your love for communicating with people, or where did this creativity come from?
So I have been creative since I was a kid, and I was never athletic. I was never into sports. I never participated in even gym class if I didn't have to. So my parents actually invested in hiring Betty Kavasic. She's a wonderful local artist. She was my art teacher in elementary, high school age. I did do that for a little while, and then life changed and I became a mom young. And so I put myself on the back burner for a long time. And I found creativity during those years, things like gardening and cooking nice meals. And that was the only way I could be creative. So when I went into my early 30s, and that was when I was finding myself, and that's when the kids and I went out on our own. And the very first thing that I did was I bought myself a canvas and a bottle of wine, actually.
That does make you more creative.
Yes, absolutely. And it was a very stressful time of my life, so I wasn't sleeping a lot anyway. So I would put the kids to bed, and then I would just pull up Bob Ross on the old VHSs, the little tube TV that I had, and I would just learn how to paint again. I had done a little bit of painting, more drawing in my youth, but not a ton. So I just taught myself over time. And during this time, this is when I went to the CLA, the Center for Learning Alternatives, to get my grade 12. That was my GED that I wanted to accomplish. And I also wanted to accomplish, being career minded and like becoming, a dental hygienist was the first thought. So I love this story. Joanne Shaw, she's amazing. I'm not sure what she's doing now, but she was my counselor at the time. And she was directing me into what I needed to take and do. So the thing about this place is it was correspondence work as well as in person. So I could take work home and work on it when I wanted to. But the problem is I never wanted to. So I would show up and there was no deadlines for anything really, but I wasn't really making the progress. So at one point, I do remember Joanne asking me, okay, like, what do you like doing? Let's see if we can get you some credits somewhere else. And instead of doing my homework, I was in my little tiny bedroom off to the side painting every night. So she said, bring in some paintings and we'll see if we can get you some points or whatever, credits, some credits for this. So I remember specifically, I had 12 paintings done at the time. I had stinky old pillowcases and a big old Costco bag. And I remember taking them all down to the center. And she was so sweet. She left her office and she asked me to set it all up like a gallery. So I displayed all 12 pieces around the room. And Joanne came back in when it was time. And she literally hugged me and cried. And she said, this is what you need to be doing. So my own counselor at school told me, school's not your thing. So let's get you painting instead.
Yeah.
So, it was an incredible moment for me. And actually, one of the times that I painted where you were present, was it the Mayor's Ball, I think? I tell the story a lot about Joanne. Mm-hmm. And I was painting at one of these things that you and I were at. And Joanne was there. And she had one seat at her table. This is just before COVID hit. Yeah. And she had one seat at her table with a bunch of other ladies. And she invited me to sit with them. Because I usually just paint in the foyer. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm doing a donation piece, I'm live painting, finishing it up. And so she invited me in. So I actually got to go full circle with her a few years back.
And did she tell you I told you so?
Yeah, she did. We had a whole lot of I'm proud of you moments. Wow. So that changed my life forever. And so at that point, that was when I started doing a lot more. And then I would post I use social media for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was to sell my work. Yes. So I get a lot of commissions because I do post my stuff on my social channels. So that was one thing that was really incredible and something that changed my life was trying to go get my schooling and figuring out that I could just teach myself how to paint and make money that way.
Well, your story is very inspirational and you've gone through a lot of challenges and a lot of successes in your life, and all, maybe not the challenges, but the success is certainly well-deserved. Now you have this successful store and this successful business. You're painting, you're a fitness trainer, you work with nutrition. What's next? Do you have any exciting things coming up that you can share?
I'm pretty burnt out, I have to admit. Yeah. My cup is really empty. So I actually stopped training people last year when I realized that I needed to, put my own mask on first in the plate. Mm-hmm. So I actually found diving into painting more was really beneficial for me over the past year. And I'm really excited to start focusing on that a lot more. So I do have a lot of exciting commissions coming up for that. And I'm just taking more time for myself. And then I'm able to give a lot more to my customers in the store. So when people want the fitness Cara and the advice and the motivation Cara, they just have to come see me there. Yeah. So for now, I really want to shift more into my art, focus more on the store and, travel maybe again one day too. But Absolutely. As far as my career goes with the whole fitness thing, I feel really fulfilled and really content with what I've contributed. And I have so many younger girls that are coming up and coming in our community that I really admire and respect. And I listen to the way that they're starting to coach and develop their businesses. And I really feel like shining a spotlight on them a little bit more and taking a bit more of a step back from that end of things and focusing more on, I lost a lot of time with my kids with those years competing and they're all adults now. And so, family, painting, travel, those are things I want to focus on.
Well, it's all well-deserved. You have been an incredible inspiration to many people, probably way more people than you understand have changed their lives because of things you've said, whether it be on social media or within settings such as this. It is wonderful to be able to get to know you a little bit better, and I'm definitely wishing you the best. If you have not seen her art, or you have a lot of interest in seeing what she's doing in the fitness and nutrition realm, where can they find more information about you?
I really like Instagram. Instagram is fun because it's not a lot of words and reading and pending doom and news and things. So I prefer to go to the lighthearted Instagram. That's where I like to do my initial posting. So that would be at Active Body PG Cara is my handle. And of course, it's Active Body Nutrition PG. And then I share everything over to our business page on Facebook as well, which is just Active Body Nutrition PG. So those are my two. That's all that this old lady can bite off right now. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on any of the other ones. Just mostly Instagram and Facebook.
That's fantastic. So we're going to share those in the show notes and down below. And make sure that you do check her out as well as her art. If you are going on your fitness journey, this is a great opportunity to start. Thanks everyone for listening to You Sip, I Sip, and we'll see you on the next show.
Thank you for listening to You Sip, I Sip. Please hit the 5-star rating and leave us a review. If you'd like to learn more about Northern Lights Winery, text us at 604-670-4046 or visit us on social media at Northern Lights Winery.